Justin Bieber's record label is reportedly forcing him back into pop music after his latest album didn't meet their financial expectations. And the behind-the-scenes drama is absolutely wild. If you want the hottest celebrity industry tea delivered daily, smash that subscribe button because we're about to expose everything in the music industry want you to know. The whispers started circulating through Hollywood just weeks after Justin's latest project failed to generate the streaming numbers his label anticipated. Sources close to the situation reveals that executives are now pressuring the global superstar to abandon his current artistic direction and return to the bubblegum pop sound that originally launched him to stardom. This isn't just about creative differences, though. This is about millions of dollars and contracts that could make or break careers. Record labels operate like ruthless businesses, where every dollar invested must return with interest. When Justin's team poured massive budgets into recording sessions, music videos, promotional campaigns, radio play, and marketing blitzes, they expected those investments to pay off big time. The harsh reality of the music industry is that artistic expression takes a backseat to profit margins when albums underperform commercially. Justin's label reportedly spent over $15 million on his latest project, covering everything from studio time with top-tier producers to elaborate music video productions that cost more than most people's houses. When the album failed to recoup even half of that investment through streaming revenue and sales, panic mode kicked in among executives who now see their golden goose as a financial liability rather than an asset. The pressure campaign began subtly with suggestions about collaborating with proven hitmakers like Max Martin and Dr. Luke, producers known for crafting radio-friendly anthems that dominate charts worldwide. These aren't just casual recommendations either. Industry insiders report that label executives have already started scheduling meetings with these producers without Justin's explicit consent, essentially forcing his hand in the creative process. What makes this situation even more explosive is that Justin has been vocal about wanting to explore more mature themes and sounds in his music. His repeatedly expressed interest in diving deeper into R&B/influences, experimenting with alternative production techniques, and collaborating with underground artists who don't necessarily guarantee mainstream success, but offer authentic artistic growth opportunities. The conflict between artistic integrity and commercial viability has reached a boiling point. Behind closed doors, sources describe a heated conference room meetings where label executives are present streaming data, sales figures, and market research that supposedly proves pop music remains Justin's most profitable lane. Meanwhile, Justin's personal team argues that forcing an artist into a creative box they've outgrown could damage his long-term career prospects and alienate his evolving fan base. The timeline for this alleged pop album is reportedly aggressive, with the label pushing for release within the next 18 months. This accelerated schedule would require Justin to immediately begin working with their chosen producers and songwriters, leaving little room for his own creative input or artistic vision. Industry veterans recognize this strategy as a classic label move designed to quickly recover losses from previous investments. Behind-the-scenes negotiations have become increasingly tense as both sides refuse to compromise on their vision for Justin's future. The label argues that his original pop sound generated billions of streams and sold millions of records worldwide, creating a proven formula for success that shouldn't be abandoned for experimental projects that appeal to smaller audiences. They point to his early hits that dominated radio airwaves and social media platforms as evidence that pop music remains his strongest commercial asset. Justin's camp counters that forcing an artist to repeat the past successes without room for growth often leads to creative stagnation and eventual career decline. They cite numerous examples of artists who became trapped in their own success, producing increasingly stale versions of their breakthrough sound until audiences lost interest entirely. The fear is that mandating a return to pop music could turn Justin into a caricature of his younger self rather than allowing him to mature as an artist. The financial stakes couldn't be higher for both parties involved in this standoff. Justin's contract reportedly includes specific clauses about album performance and commercial success that could trigger penalties or reduced creative control if certain benchmarks aren't met. The label has already invested heavily in his brand and sees forcing a turn to pop music as the safest path to protecting their investment and maintaining his marketability. Streaming numbers from his recent releases paint a complex picture that both sides interpret differently. While his latest project didn't achieve the massive commercial success of his earlier pop anthems, it still generated millions of plays and maintained his presence on various charts. The question becomes whether these numbers represent a natural evolution of his audience or a concerning the decline in his commercial appeal. Industry analysts suggest that Justin's situation reflects broader tensions within the music business between artistic freedom and commercial demands. Major labels face increasing pressure to produce immediate hits in an oversaturated market where new artists emerge daily, and attention spans continue shrinking. This environment often forces established artists into creative compromises that prioritize short-term profits over long-term artistic development. The pop music landscape has also evolved significantly since Justin first dominated charts with his teenage heartthrob image. Current pop trends incorporate elements from hip-hop, electronic dance music, and international genres that weren't as prominent during his initial rise to fame. A forced return to his original sound might feel outdated compared to contemporary pop music that has moved far beyond the simple melodies and themes that defined his early career. Fan reactions to rumors about this potential pop album has been mixed, revealing the challenging position Justin faces, regardless of his ultimate decision. Longtime supporters who discovered him during his pop era express excitement about potentially hearing familiar sounds that remind them of their youth. However, newer fans who appreciate his recent artistic growth worry that returning to pop music would represent a step backward in his creative journey. Social media discussions about this situation have exploded across platforms where fans debate whether artists should prioritize commercial success or personal artistic satisfaction. The conversation extends beyond Justin, specifically to broader questions about how the music industry treats established artists and whether creative freedom becomes a luxury that only the most successful musicians can afford. Music industry executives who spoke anonymously about similar situations describe this as a common crossroads that many artists face after experiencing both commercial success and creative evolution. The challenge lies in balancing financial obligations toward labels with personal artistic growth that may not immediately translate to mainstream commercial success. These decisions often define whether artists maintain long-term relevance or become trapped in cycles of diminishing returns. The timeline pressure adds another layer of complexity to this already volatile situation. Rushing the creative process to meet label deadlines rarely produce an artist's best work, but delaying releases can strain relationships with executives who need to show quarterly profits to their corporate superiors. This creates a lose-lose scenario where artistic quality might suffer regardless of which direction Justin ultimately chooses. Production costs for modern pop albums continue escalating as labels compete to create the most polished and radio-ready content as possible. The investment required for a proper pop album release includes not just recording expenses, but comprehensive marketing campaigns across multiple platforms, music video productions that often resemble short films, and promotional appearances that can span months or even years. Behind closed doors, Justin's team is reportedly exploring alternative strategies that might satisfy both his creative desires and his label's commercial expectations. These potential compromises could include releasing a pop album that incorporates more mature themes and sophisticated production techniques, essentially bridging the gap between his artistic growth and his commercial obligations. The broader implications of this situation extends throughout the music industry, where similar conflicts play out regularly between artists and their labels. Young musicians signing their first record deals rarely anticipate how contractual obligations might limit their creative freedom for years down the line. Justin's current predicament serves as a cautionary tale about the long-term consequences of fairly career decisions that prioritize immediate success over artistic autonomy. International markets add another dimension to this discussion as Justin's pop music has historically performed better in certain countries whereas more recent experimental sound haven't achieved the same level of commercial success. Labels often consider global market performance when making decisions about artistic direction, sometimes prioritizing international sales over domestic creative preferences. The resolution of this conflict will likely set precedents for how major labels handle similar situations with other established artists who want to evolve beyond their original successful formulas. Industry observers are watching closely to see whether Justin's star power gives him enough leverage to resist label pressure if commercial realities will ultimately force him back into the pop music lane. Regardless of the outcome, this situation highlights the ongoing tension between artistic integrity and commercial viability that defines much of the modern music industry. Artists at very level face similar pressures to repeat past successes rather than risk failure by exploring new creative territories. Justin's high-profile case simply makes these universal industry dynamics more visible to the general public. The next few months will reveal whether compromise is possible or if this standoff will escalate into a more public dispute between Justin and his record label. Industry insiders suggest that both parties have too much invested in their relationship for it to completely deteriorate. But finding middle ground that satisfies everyone involved will require careful negotiation and mutual respect for each other's concerns and priorities. Don't forget to subscribe for more exclusive celebrity industry drama because trust for me, this story is just getting started. And you won't want to miss what happens next in this billion-dollar battle between artistic freedom and corporate control.